The grand ballroom of Ashford Manor sparkled like 1,000 stars had fallen from the sky. Candles flickered in crystal chandeliers. Gold trim lined every wall. Music floated through the air like silk. Adeline stood at the entrance. Her green eyes swept across the room. Her heart beat hard against her ribs. She wore a gown of midnight blue. Diamonds hung at her throat. Her dark hair was pinned up in soft curls. She looked like royalty. Because she was. Duchess of Harrogate. Wife to one of England's most powerful men. Mother to a beautiful son. No one here knew who she really was. No one recognized the broken girl who had run from this very town 5 years ago. "Are you ready, my dear?" The deep voice came from beside her. Adeline glanced up at her husband. The Duke of Harrogate stood tall and strong. His silver hair gleamed in the candlelight. His kind eyes studied her face. "Yes," she whispered. It was a lie. The Duke took her gloved hand. He placed it gently on his arm. Together they walked into the ballroom. Heads turned. Whispers started. Everyone wanted to see the new Duchess. Adeline kept her chin high. She smiled softly. She moved with grace she had learned over 5 years of transformation. But inside she was screaming, because across the room she saw him. Damien. He stood near the fireplace. His dark hair was still too long. His jaw was still sharp. His blue eyes still looked like a storm about to break. He wore a black coat. His shoulders were broader than she remembered. His face was harder. 5 years had changed them both. But the moment their eyes met, time stopped. Damien's glass paused halfway to his lips. His body went completely still. The colour drained from his face. He recognized her. Adeline felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. Her breath caught in her throat. Every wound she thought had healed ripped open again. "Adeline?" The Duke's voice was gentle. "Are you well?" She forced herself to look away from Damien. She smiled at her husband. "Perfectly well," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "Just a moment of dizziness." The Duke frowned. His concern was real. "Perhaps we should step outside." "No." Adeline squeezed his arm. "I want to stay." She had not come all this way to run. Not again. The Duke nodded. He led her deeper into the crowd. People approached them. Lords and ladies, politicians and merchants. Everyone wanted to meet the Duke and his mysterious new wife. Adeline played her part perfectly. She smiled, she spoke, she charmed. But she felt Damien's eyes on her the entire time. Burning, shocked, desperate. "Your Grace," a woman's voice interrupted. "How wonderful to see you." Adeline turned. Lady Margaret stood before them. She was older now. Her face had more lines, but her eyes were still sharp, still judgmental. "Lady Margaret," the Duke said warmly, "may I present my wife, the Duchess of Harrogate?" Lady Margaret's smile was cold. She looked Adeline up and down. "Charming," she said, but her tone said the opposite. Adeline remembered this woman. 5 years ago, Lady Margaret had called her a servant girl, a nobody, unworthy of her nephew. Her nephew, Damien. "Thank you," Adeline said smoothly. "Your home is beautiful." This was Lady Margaret's party, her manor, her world, and Adeline had just walked back into it as a duchess. Lady Margaret's jaw tightened. "You look familiar, my dear. Have we met?" The moment stretched. Dangerous. Electric. "I don't believe so," Adeline said. Her voice was calm, cool. "I spent most of my life in the north." It was the truth. After she ran from this place, she had gone north, alone, pregnant, terrified. Lady Margaret didn't look convinced, but she couldn't place Adeline's face. The weight loss had helped, the fine clothes, the confident posture, the Duchess title. Adeline was a ghost wearing a different skin. "If you'll excuse us," the Duke said. He sensed the tension. "I promised my wife a dance." He led Adeline onto the dance floor. His hand was steady at her waist. His movements were gentle. "That woman doesn't like you," he said quietly. "No," Adeline agreed. "She doesn't. Do you know her?" Adeline hesitated. The Duke had been kind to her. He had saved her life. He had given her son a name, a future, but she had never told him everything. "I knew her once," Adeline admitted. "Long ago." The Duke studied her face. He was 70 years old, wise, patient. He had married Adeline knowing she carried secrets. He had never pushed her to share them. "This is where you're from," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes. And someone here hurt you?" Adeline's throat tightened. "Yes." The Duke nodded slowly. "Do you wish to leave?" "No." Adeline's voice was stronger now. "I wish to stay." The Duke smiled, sad but proud. "Then we shall stay." The music swirled around them. Adeline let herself sink into the rhythm. She had learned to dance in the Duke's home. She had learned to read, to speak properly, to hold herself like a lady. She had learned to survive. But she didn't know. She didn't know that Damien was moving through the crowd toward her. His eyes never left her face. His hands were clenched into fists. His breathing was too fast. He looked like a man possessed. When the dance ended, the Duke led Adeline to the side of the room. He excused himself to speak with a colleague. Adeline stood alone, for exactly 10 seconds. Then Damien was there. He appeared beside her like a shadow. His presence was overwhelming, too close, too familiar. Adeline. Her name on his lips was a knife to the heart. She didn't turn to look at him. She kept her eyes forward, her hands folded calmly in front of her. "You're mistaken, sir," she said. Her voice was ice. "My name is Her Grace, the Duchess of Harrogate." "Don't," his voice cracked. "Don't do this." "Do what?" Now she looked at him. Her green eyes were cold, hard. "I'm simply correcting a stranger who addressed me improperly." Damien flinched. "I'm not a stranger." "Aren't you?" The question hung between them, heavy, painful. Damien's jaw worked. His eyes searched her face desperately. "You're alive." "Disappointed?" "No." The word burst from him, raw, honest. "God, no. I searched for you, for months. You just vanished." Adeline's laugh was bitter. "Yes, that's what happens when you're left pregnant and humiliated at the altar." Damien went pale. "You were pregnant?" The shock in his voice was real. Adeline's heart twisted. "You didn't know?" "No, I swear. Adeline, Your Grace," she corrected coldly. Damien closed his eyes. Pain etched across his face. "Your Grace, please, I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain." Adeline's voice was calm, dead. "You made your choice 5 years ago. I made mine. I didn't choose to leave you." "Then why did you?" The question was simple, devastating. Damien opened his mouth, closed it. His hands shook. "I can't tell you here," he finally said. "But I will, I promise. Just give me a chance." "No." The word was final. Damien's expression crumbled. "Adeline." "Ah, there you are, my dear," the Duke returned. He placed a protective hand on Adeline's lower back. His eyes moved to Damien, cool, assessing. "Is this gentleman bothering you?" "Not at all," Adeline said smoothly. "He simply mistook me for someone else." The Duke's gaze sharpened. He looked between them. He was not a fool. "I see," he said slowly. He turned to Damien. "And you are?" Damien straightened. His face became a mask. "Damien Ashford, Lady Margaret's nephew." Ashford. The Duke's tone was thoughtful. "I've heard that name." Adeline had told him once, in pieces, a man who broke her heart, who left her at the altar. She had never said his name. But the Duke was clever. "A pleasure," the Duke said. His voice held no warmth. "If you'll excuse us." He led Adeline away. She didn't look back, but she felt Damien's eyes following her. Desperate. Broken. Good, she thought. Let him feel what I felt. Yet something felt wrong. The shock on Damien's face had been real. The pain had been real. "You didn't know," he had said about the pregnancy. What else didn't he know? 5 years ago, Adeline had been a different person. She had been 17, a maid in Lady Margaret's household. Her hands were always red from washing. Her dresses were simple. Her hair was never perfectly styled. But she had been happy, because Damien had loved her. He was 22, Lady Margaret's nephew, the son of a baron. He spent his summers at the manor. He had noticed Adeline one afternoon in the garden. She was picking roses. Her fingers had pricked on a thorn. Blood welled up bright red. "You're hurt," he had said. She had jumped, spun around, stared at him with wide eyes. "It's nothing, sir," she had stammered. But he had taken her hand, gentle, careful. He had pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and wrapped her finger. "Be more careful," he had said. His blue eyes had been kind, warm. That was how it started. Secret meetings in the garden, whispered conversations in hallways, stolen kisses behind the stable. Damien had told her she was beautiful, smart, special. He had promised to marry her. "I don't care that you're a maid," he had said. His hands had cupped her face. "I love you. That's all that matters." Adeline had believed him. She had given him everything, her heart, her body, her future. They had planned to elope, to run away together, to start a new life. The date was set. A small church in the next town, a kind priest who didn't ask questions. Adeline had worn a simple white dress. She had carried wild flowers. She had waited at the altar, and waited, and waited. Damien never came. Hours passed. The priest had looked at her with pity. Adeline had stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Finally, a boy had run in. He had handed her a note. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Forget me." The handwriting was Damien's. The words destroyed her. Adeline had stumbled from the church. She had run through the streets, back to the manor. But Lady Margaret had been waiting. "You foolish girl," the old woman had hissed. "Did you really think my nephew would marry a servant? He's engaged to Miss Charlotte Pemberton, a lady, someone worthy of our name." Adeline had felt her world shatter. "But he said—" "He lied." Lady Margaret's eyes had been cruel. "Men like him don't marry girls like you. They use you. Then they move on." Adeline had learned later that she was pregnant, 2 months along, scared, alone. She had tried to find Damien, to tell him, to ask for help. But he was gone, left for London. His engagement to Charlotte was announced in the papers. Lady Margaret had thrown Adeline out, called her a whore, told her to never come back. Adeline had taken what little money she had saved. She had walked north. For days. Her feet had bled. Her body had ached. She had wanted to die. But she didn't know. She didn't know that fate had other plans. Adeline had collapsed on the road 3 days into her journey. Exhausted, starving, hopeless. A carriage had stopped. An old man had stepped out. Silver hair, kind eyes, expensive clothes. "Good heavens," he had said. "Are you hurt?" Adeline had tried to stand. She had fallen again. The old man had caught her. His driver had helped. They had lifted her into the carriage. "Where are you going?" the man had asked. "Nowhere," Adeline had whispered. "I have nowhere to go." The man had studied her. Something in his expression had shifted, softened. "Then you'll come with me," he had said. That man was the Duke of Harrogate. He had taken Adeline to his estate. He had given her a room, food, A doctor. When he learned she was pregnant, he didn't judge her. He didn't turn her away. "You're with child," he had said simply. "That's a blessing, not a shame." Adeline had cried. The first real tears since Damien left her. The Duke had let her stay. He had asked for nothing in return. "I had a daughter once," he had told her one evening. They sat in his library, fire crackling, tea steaming. "She died in childbirth, the baby too." Adeline had touched his hand. "I'm so sorry." "It was 20 years ago," he had said, "but I still miss her every day." They had formed an unlikely friendship, the old Duke and the broken girl. He had taught her to read, to write, to speak like a lady. When her son was born, the Duke had held him. Tears had streamed down his weathered face. "What will you name him?" he had asked. "Thomas," Adeline had whispered, "after my father." A good name. 3 months later, the Duke had made an offer. "Marry me," he had said. Adeline had stared at him, shocked. "Your Grace, I'm not asking for a real marriage," he had interrupted. "I'm offering you protection, a title, a future for your son." "But why?" The Duke had smiled sadly. "Because you remind me of my daughter. Because I'm old and lonely. Because that boy deserves a name. And because—" he had hesitated. "Because I've grown fond of you both." Adeline had cried again. "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." So she had said yes. They married quietly, no ceremony, just papers signed, vows spoken. The Duke gave Thomas his name, legally adopted him, made him an heir. "He'll be a duke one day," he had said, proud, happy. Adeline had learned to be a duchess, to manage a household, to host parties, to speak with nobles. She had learned to bury her past. Until tonight. Until she walked back into the place where her heart had been destroyed. Adeline couldn't sleep that night. She stood at the window of their guest room. The moon was full. Silver light spilled across the gardens. The same gardens where Damien had kissed her for the first time. "You're thinking of him." The Duke's voice was quiet. He sat in a chair by the fire. A book lay forgotten in his lap. Adeline didn't turn. "Yes." "Is he the one?" "Yes." Silence stretched, comfortable, sad. "Do you still love him?" the Duke asked. Adeline closed her eyes. "I don't know." It was the truth. She hated Damien for abandoning her, for breaking her, for making her believe in lies. But part of her, a small, wounded part, still remembered the way he had looked at her, like she was the only person in the world. "He didn't know about Thomas," Adeline said softly. The Duke stood. He moved to her side. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. "What will you do?" he asked. "Nothing." "Adeline." He made his choice. She turned to face her husband. Her eyes were fierce. "I made mine. I won't let him destroy what we've built." The Duke smiled, gentle, understanding. "You're stronger than you think. I learned from the best." He kissed her forehead, fatherly, loving. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow will be difficult." He was right, but he didn't know how difficult. The next morning, Adeline woke early. The Duke was already gone. A note sat on his pillow. "Business calls me to town. I'll return this afternoon. Be strong, my dear." Adeline smiled. He knew she needed time, space. She dressed in a simple gown, green like her eyes. She pinned her hair loosely. Then she walked to the garden. The roses were in full bloom, red, pink, white. Their scent filled the air. Adeline touched a petal, soft, delicate, like the girl she used to be. "I knew I'd find you here." She didn't jump this time. She had felt him coming. His presence was like a storm cloud. Damien stepped into view. He wore no coat. His shirt was wrinkled, His hair was messy. He looked like he hadn't slept. "You're trespassing," Adeline said calmly. "This is private property." "I don't care." "You should. The Duke employs guards." "Let them come." Adeline finally looked at him, really looked. His eyes were bloodshot, his face was haggard. He looked broken. "Good," a part of her whispered, but another part ached. "What do you want, Damien?" "To explain." "There's nothing to explain." "Yes, there is." He moved closer, desperate. "I didn't abandon you, I swear." "Then what do you call leaving me pregnant at the altar?" "I didn't know you were pregnant." "That doesn't change the fact that you left me." Her voice rose. All the pain, all the anger. 5 years of holding it in. It exploded. "I waited for you." Adeline's hands shook. "I stood in that church for hours. I believed you loved me. I believed you'd come." "I did love you." Damien's voice cracked. "I still—" "Don't." Adeline held up a hand. "Don't you dare say it." "It's the truth." "Then why?" The question ripped from her throat, raw, bleeding. "Why did you send that note? Why did you marry Charlotte? Why did you leave me with nothing?" Damien's face twisted. "I didn't send any note." Adeline froze. "What?" "I didn't send you a note." Damien's voice was urgent, honest. "I was on my way to the church. I was ready, excited. But my aunt—" He stopped, his jaw clenched. "Lady Margaret drugged my wine the night before." The world tilted. "What?" Adeline whispered. "I woke up 2 days later, in London, at Charlotte's family estate." Damien's hands were fists. "My aunt told me you had run away, that you'd taken money from her, that you never wanted to see me again." Adeline couldn't breathe. "That's a lie." "I know that now." Damien stepped closer. His eyes pleaded with her. "But I believed it then. I was young, stupid, heartbroken." "So you married Charlotte?" "No." Damien shook his head. "I refused. For 2 years I refused. I searched for you. I hired men to look. But you'd vanished. I was pregnant, alone, starving." Damien flinched like she'd struck him. "I didn't know. God, Adeline, if I'd known—" "You would have what? Come for me?" Adeline's laugh was bitter. "You were engaged to Charlotte. You were building a life with her." "I never married Charlotte." Adeline stared at him. "What?" "I called off the engagement 3 years ago." Damien's voice was quiet, defeated. "I couldn't do it. I couldn't marry her when I still loved you." The words hung in the air, dangerous, tempting. "You're lying," Adeline said, but her voice was weak. "I'm not." Damien pulled something from his pocket, a worn piece of paper. "I kept this." He handed it to her. Adeline unfolded it with shaking hands. It was a sketch of her, done in pencil. Every detail perfect. Her smile, her eyes, the way her hair fell across her shoulder. "I drew this the day before our wedding," Damien said softly. "I've carried it every day since." Adeline's vision blurred. Tears threatened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to know the truth." Damien's voice broke. "I need you to know that I didn't abandon you, that I loved you, that I never stopped." "It doesn't matter." Adeline thrust the sketch back at him. "It's too late." "Is it?" The question was gentle, hopeful. Adeline met his eyes. "I'm married, Damien. I'm a duchess. I have a life." "Do you love him?" The question pierced her heart. "I respect him," Adeline said carefully. "I care for him. He saved me." "But do you love him?" Adeline's throat tightened. "He's been good to me." That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give. Damien stepped closer. Too close. She could smell him. Soap and pine. Familiar. Painful. What about us? He whispered. There is no us. Liar. The word was soft, knowing. Adeline's breath hitched. Don't. I see it in your eyes. Damien's hand rose. His fingers almost touched her cheek. You still feel it, this thing between us. No. Yes. They stared at each other. The air crackled, electric, dangerous. Adeline should pull away, she should leave, she should run. But she didn't move. Adeline, Damien breathed. Mama! The child's voice shattered the moment. Adeline spun around. Her heart stopped. Thomas ran toward her. 4 years old, dark, curly hair, blue eyes. Damien's eyes. The boy crashed into Adeline's skirts. He laughed, happy, innocent. Mama, look! I found a butterfly! Adeline's hands shook as she touched her son's hair. That's wonderful, darling. But her eyes were on Damien. He had gone completely still. His face was white. His gaze was locked on Thomas, on the boy's eyes, on the shape of his face, on the truth. He's mine, Damien whispered. It wasn't a question. Adeline pulled Thomas closer, protective, terrified. No, she said. Her voice was steel. He's the Duke's son, legally, officially. But I'm his father. You're a stranger. Damien looked at her, betrayed, devastated. How could you keep him from me? How could you leave me pregnant and alone? The words were knives, cutting, true. Damien opened his mouth, closed it. He looked at Thomas again. The boy had noticed him now. Who are you? Thomas asked, curious, unafraid. Damien's eyes filled with tears. I'm no one. Adeline's heart cracked, but she didn't soften. She couldn't. Come, Thomas, she said. She took her son's hand. Let's go inside. But, Mama! Now. She led Thomas away. She didn't look back, but she heard Damien's broken sob, and it nearly destroyed her. Yet someone was listening. Lady Margaret stood at an upstairs window. She watched the scene in the garden. Her face was carved from stone. Foolish boy, she muttered. Her maid stood nearby, nervous, wringing her hands. Shall I prepare tea, my lady? The maid asked. No. Lady Margaret turned from the window. Her mind was working, calculating. Send for Mr. Pemberton, immediately. Yes, my lady. The maid scurried away. Lady Margaret moved to her desk. She pulled out a locked drawer. Inside were letters. Old, yellowed. She had kept them for 5 years. Insurance, protection. Now she would use them. She couldn't let Damien ruin everything. Not again. Not when there was so much at stake. But she didn't know. She didn't know that someone else had been watching too. The Duke of Harrogate returned that afternoon. He found Adeline in the nursery. She sat on the floor with Thomas. They were building a tower of wooden blocks. Papa! Thomas jumped up. He ran to the Duke. The old man caught him, lifted him high, laughed. How's my boy? The Duke asked. I saw a butterfly and a strange man in the garden. The Duke's eyes found Adeline's. She looked pale, shaken. Go play with your soldiers, Thomas, the Duke said gently. I need to speak with your mother. Yes, Papa. Thomas ran to his toys, happy, distracted. The Duke sat beside Adeline. He took her hand. Tell me, he said simply. So she did. She told him everything. About Damien in the garden, about his claims, about Lady Margaret's drugging him, about the note that was a lie, about Thomas. He knows, Adeline whispered. He saw Thomas. He knows. The Duke was quiet for a long moment. His face was thoughtful. Do you believe him? He finally asked. About the drugging, about the note. Adeline closed her eyes. Yes. Why? Because I saw his face. He was telling the truth. The Duke nodded. Then your Lady Margaret is a dangerous woman. She always was. What do you want to do? Adeline looked at Thomas, her son, her world. I want to protect him, she said. I want to keep him safe. From Damien? From the truth. The Duke squeezed her hand. The truth always comes out, my dear. Always. I know. Adeline's voice was small, scared. But not yet. Please, not yet. All right. The Duke kissed her temple. But we should leave. Tomorrow. This place isn't safe. Adeline nodded. Relief flooded through her. They would leave. They would go home. They would forget this ever happened. But fate had other plans. Lady Margaret insisted they stay for one more event, a formal dinner. The guests of honor couldn't leave early. It would be rude. The Duke had agreed, reluctantly. One more night, he told Adeline. Then we go home. So they dressed for dinner. Adeline wore emerald silk. The Duke wore his finest coat. Thomas stayed in the nursery with a trusted maid. Don't let anyone in, Adeline instructed. Anyone. Yes, Your Grace. Adeline kissed Thomas's forehead. Be good, my love. I will, Mama. She followed the Duke downstairs. Her stomach was in knots. The dining room glittered. 20 guests sat around a massive table. Crystal glasses, silver plates, expensive wine. Lady Margaret sat at the head. She smiled, cold, calculating. Your Grace, she said to the Duke. How wonderful. Please, sit. She gestured to seats near her, across from Damien. Adeline's heart sank. This was deliberate. Damien looked up as they approached. His eyes found Adeline's, haunted, desperate. He had changed clothes, shaved, tried to look presentable, but his eyes gave him away. They sat, the Duke on Adeline's right, Damien directly across. The tension was suffocating. Tell me, Your Grace, Lady Margaret said to the Duke, how did you meet your lovely wife? The question was innocent, but her tone was sharp. By chance, the Duke said smoothly. She was in need of help. I provided it. How charitable, Lady Margaret sipped her wine. And you knew nothing of her past? I knew what she chose to tell me. Interesting. Lady Margaret's eyes glittered. Because I believe I know her past very well. The room went silent. Adeline's blood turned to ice. Do you? The Duke's voice was calm, but his hand found Adeline's under the table. Protective. Oh yes, Lady Margaret smiled. She worked for me once, didn't you, dear? Every eye turned to Adeline. She lifted her chin. I did, 5 years ago. Gasps rippled around the table. A maid, someone whispered. How scandalous, another murmured. The Duke's hand tightened on hers. My wife's past is her own. I care nothing for gossip. Of course, Lady Margaret's smile widened. But there's more to the story, isn't there? Adeline's heart pounded. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? Lady Margaret gestured to Damien. My nephew was quite taken with you, foolishly planned to marry you, in fact. Damien's jaw clenched. Aunt, but you ran away, Lady Margaret continued, took money, vanished, broke his heart. That's not what happened, Damien said. His voice was hard, angry. Isn't it? Lady Margaret pulled a folded paper from her bodice. I have the note you wrote, the one where you said you couldn't marry a servant. She tossed it onto the table. Adeline stared at it, her handwriting, her words, but she had never written it. That's a forgery, she said. Her voice shook. Is it? Lady Margaret's eyes were triumphant. Can you prove that? Silence. Adeline couldn't. The handwriting was too good, too perfect. Someone had studied her writing, copied it, created a lie. You did this, Adeline said. She looked at Lady Margaret. You wrote that note. You drugged Damien. You destroyed us. Ridiculous. Is it? Now Damien spoke. He stood, his chair scraped back. Because I remember waking up in London. I remember you standing over me, smiling. Lady Margaret's face went pale. I remember you telling me Adeline was gone, Damien continued. His voice rose. I remember you forcing me to stay at the Pemberton estate, locking me in, telling me it was for my own good. You were drunk, Lady Margaret snapped. Heartbroken. I was protecting you. You were controlling me. Damien's hand slammed on the table. You've always controlled me. Since my parents died, you decided who I could see, who I could love, what I could do. I did what was best for this family. You destroyed my life. The words echoed through the room. Everyone stared, shocked, silent. Lady Margaret's mask finally cracked. Fury blazed in her eyes. She was a maid, she hissed. A nobody. She would have ruined you. She was the woman I loved, Damien's voice broke. And you took her from me. Lady Margaret stood. I did what any responsible guardian would do. I protected your future, your name. You stole my child. Damien looked at her. His eyes were full of tears. You kept my son from me. Gasps again, louder this time. Adeline closed her eyes. The secret was out. Your son? Lady Margaret laughed, cold, sharp. That boy is the Duke's son, legally adopted. You have no claim. He's my blood. Blood means nothing without a name. Lady Margaret's voice was venomous. You're not married. You have no title. You can't provide for him. What judge would give you custody? Damien went pale. Because she was right. Legally, he had no rights. Thomas was the Duke's heir, protected, safe. Damien was just a man with a broken heart. Adeline felt tears slide down her cheeks. This was her worst nightmare. Enough! The Duke's voice cut through the chaos. He stood, calm, powerful. This discussion is over, he said. My wife and I are leaving. But your grace, Lady Margaret started. Now! The single word was like thunder. The Duke took Adeline's arm. He led her from the room. She could feel 20 pairs of eyes on her back, but she kept her head high, even as her heart shattered. They returned to their room. The Duke closed the door. He turned to Adeline. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. For what? For bringing scandal to your name. For lying about my past, for… Stop. The Duke took her hands. You have nothing to apologize for. But everyone knows now. They'll talk. They'll… Let them talk. His voice was firm, gentle. I knew who you were when I married you. A survivor, a mother, a woman of strength. Adeline's tears fell faster. You deserve better. I deserve nothing. The Duke smiled sadly. But I've been blessed with you and Thomas. That's more than enough. Adeline hugged him. This kind man, this unexpected savior. What do we do now? She asked. We go home. The Duke pulled back. He cupped her face. We raise Thomas. We live our lives. We forget this place. And Damien? The question hung between them. The Duke studied her face. Do you want to see him again? Adeline's throat tightened. I don't know. Then think about it. But know this. His eyes were serious. Whatever you choose, I'll support you. If you want to cut him out completely, I'll stand by you. If you want to let him know his son, I'll allow it. You'd do that? For you, yes. Adeline's heart swelled. Why are you so good to me? Because you deserve goodness. The Duke kissed her forehead. Now rest. We leave at dawn. He left the room. Adeline sank onto the bed. Her mind spun. Damien was Thomas's father. He had been wronged, manipulated, hurt. But he had also been absent for 5 years. He didn't know Thomas, didn't know his favorite color, his laugh, his fears. Could she let him in now? Should she? A knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. The door opened. A maid entered, young, nervous. "Your Grace," she said, "I have a message." "From whom?" "Mr. Ashford. He's waiting in the garden. He begs you to come, just for a moment." Adeline's heart raced. "Tell him no." "Please, Your Grace, he says it's urgent, about Lady Margaret." Adeline hesitated. "What about her?" "He didn't say, just that you need to know the truth." The truth. Always the truth. Adeline stood, against her better judgment, against all logic. "I'll come." She followed the maid downstairs, out into the cool night. The garden was dark, shadows stretched long. Damien stood by the rose bushes. His face was pale in the moonlight. "You came," he said. Relief flooded his voice. "I shouldn't have." "I know, but I'm glad you did." Adeline crossed her arms, defensive, guarded. "The maid said you have information about your aunt." "Yes." Damien pulled papers from his coat. "I searched her study after dinner. I found these." He handed them to Adeline. She unfolded them. Her eyes widened. Letters. Dozens of letters. Between Lady Margaret and Charlotte's father. Adeline read quickly. Her breath caught. "They planned it," she whispered. "Yes." "The drugging, the note, the engagement, all of it." "Yes." Adeline looked up at Damien, horror in her eyes. "Why?" "Money." Damien's voice was bitter. "Charlotte's father promised to pay off my family's debts if I married her. My aunt agreed. She drugged me to make sure I didn't ruin the deal." "But you called off the engagement." 3 years ago, when I finally realized what she'd done. I've been searching for you ever since." Adeline's hands shook. "She destroyed us for money." "Yes." Adeline wanted to scream, to rage, to burn the manor down, but she just stood there, numb, broken all over again. "I'm sorry," Damien said, his voice cracked. "I'm so sorry. If I'd been stronger, smarter, if I'd seen through her lies sooner." "We were young," Adeline interrupted. Her voice was hollow. "We didn't stand a chance." "Does that mean you forgive me?" Adeline looked at him, really looked. She saw the boy she'd loved, the man he'd become, the pain he carried. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I don't hate you anymore." It was something. Damien's eyes glistened. "Can I meet him, properly? Can I know my son?" Adeline's heart twisted. "He thinks the Duke is his father." "I know. He's happy, safe. I won't let you confuse him." "I won't. I promise." Damien stepped closer. "I just want to be part of his life, even as a friend, an uncle, anything." Adeline closed her eyes. This was the moment, the choice. Cut Damien out, protect Thomas, keep their life simple, or let him in, risk the complications, give Thomas his real father. "I need time," she finally said. Damien nodded. "I understand. And if I say yes, there will be rules, boundaries. You don't get to just walk in and upend our lives." "I'll follow any rule you set." Adeline searched his face, looking for lies, for selfishness. She found only sincerity. "I'll write to you," she said, "when I'm ready. If I'm ready." "Thank you." Damien's voice was thick with emotion. "That's all I ask." Adeline turned to leave, then stopped. Damien? Yes? I'm glad you're not married to Charlotte. A small smile touched his lips. So am I. Adeline walked away. Her heart was lighter, still broken, but healing. Maybe forgiveness was possible. Maybe. But someone was still watching. Lady Margaret stood in her study. The letters were gone, stolen. Her hands shook with rage. That stupid boy, she muttered. Her maid appeared at the door. My lady, are you unwell? Find Pemberton, Lady Margaret snapped. Tell him the plan has changed. What plan, my lady? Lady Margaret smiled, cold, cruel. The one that ensures my nephew never sees that child again. The next morning, Adeline and the Duke prepared to leave. Thomas was excited. He loved traveling. Are we going home, Mama? He asked. Yes, darling. Will we see the horses? Yes. Thomas clapped his hands, happy, innocent. Adeline's heart ached. She wanted to keep him this way forever, protected, loved. But the world was cruel. The Duke supervised the loading of their trunks. Adeline stood in the entrance hall, saying silent goodbyes to a place that had haunted her for 5 years. Your Grace. She turned. Damien stood at the bottom of the stairs. He looked tired, sad. I wanted to see you off, he said. Adeline glanced around. They were alone. You shouldn't be here. I know. Damien moved closer. But I couldn't let you leave without saying goodbye. We said goodbye last night. Not properly. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small package, wrapped in cloth. What is this? Adeline asked. Something for Thomas, for when he's older. Adeline hesitated, then took the package. She unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a silver pocket watch, engraved with an A and a D intertwined. It was my father's, Damien said softly. I want Thomas to have it, so he knows. So he knows he comes from somewhere, even if he doesn't know me. Adeline's vision blurred. Damien. You don't have to tell him who it's from, just keep it safe, please. Adeline nodded. She tucked the watch into her bag. I will. They stood in silence, the weight of 5 years between them. I loved you, Damien whispered. I need you to know that. Whatever happens, whatever you decide, I loved you with everything I had. I know. Did you love me? The question was quiet, vulnerable. Adeline met his eyes. Yes, I did. And now? Now I have to protect my son. Damien nodded. He understood. Will you write? Maybe. It was the best she could offer. Damien smiled sadly. I'll wait, however long it takes. Footsteps echoed. The Duke appeared. We're ready, he said. His eyes moved between them, assessing. Adeline moved to his side. Let's go. They walked out together, to the carriage. Thomas was already inside, bouncing on the seat. Mama, Papa, look how high I can jump! Adeline laughed. The sound was wet, emotional. The Duke helped her into the carriage. He followed. The door closed. Through the window, Adeline saw Damien, standing alone, watching them leave. Their eyes met one last time, and she saw it. The love, the regret, the hope. Then the carriage pulled away. Adeline turned forward. She didn't look back, but her hand touched the pocket watch in her bag. A piece of Damien, a piece of the past, a bridge to the future. Maybe. 3 days later, the Duke received a letter. Official. Legal. He read it in his study. His face grew dark. Adeline, he called, come here. She entered, saw his expression. Fear spiked. What is it? Lady Margaret has filed a petition with the courts. What kind of petition? She's claiming Thomas is illegitimate, that our marriage was fraudulent. She's demanding custody. Adeline's world tilted. She can't do that. She's trying. The Duke set the letter down. She's claiming you married me under false pretenses, that you hid your past, that Thomas should be raised by family, by her. She's not his family. She's Damien's aunt. That makes her Thomas's great-aunt. Legally, she has a claim. Adeline felt sick. What do we do? The Duke's jaw set. We fight. The trial took place 6 weeks later, in London, in a cold courtroom. Adeline sat beside the Duke. Her hands were folded. Her spine was straight. She looked every inch a duchess. But inside, she was terrified. Lady Margaret sat across the aisle. Her lawyer was expensive, polished, confident. Your Honour, the lawyer began, we are here today to address a gross miscarriage of justice. A child has been taken from his rightful family, adopted by a man with no blood claim, raised in an environment built on lies. Adeline's nails dug into her palms. The facts are simple, the lawyer continued. Mrs. Ashford, the Duchess, worked as a maid. She engaged in an illicit affair with Mr. Damien Ashford. She became pregnant. Then she vanished. She deliberately hid the child from his father, from his family. She married the Duke under false pretenses, all to secure a title, a fortune. Lies. All lies twisted to sound like truth. The child, Thomas, deserves to know his real family, the lawyer finished. He deserves to be raised by those who have a legitimate claim. Lady Margaret is willing to provide a home, stability, respectability. The judge looked thoughtful. And Mr. Damien Ashford? Does he support this petition? No, Your Honour. Everyone turned. Damien stood at the back of the courtroom. He wore a simple suit. His face was determined. Mr. Ashford, the judge said, please approach. Damien walked forward. He didn't look at Lady Margaret. His eyes were on Adeline. You oppose your aunt's petition? The judge asked. Completely, Your Honour. Why? Because she's doing this out of spite, not love. Damien's voice was clear, strong. My aunt manipulated me 5 years ago. She drugged me, forged letters, destroyed my relationship with Adeline. She kept my son from me. Now she wants to take him away from the only parents he's ever known. It's cruel, and it's wrong. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge raised a hand. Silence fell. You admit the child is yours? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honour. Yet you allowed the Duke to adopt him. I didn't know he existed until 2 months ago. And now? Do you want custody? Damien hesitated. His eyes found Adeline's. She held her breath. No, Damien said quietly. I want what's best for Thomas. And what's best is staying with the Duke and Duchess. They've raised him. They love him. I have no right to disrupt his life. Adeline's eyes filled with tears. But, Damien continued, I would like the opportunity to know him, to be part of his life, if the Duke and Duchess allow it. The judge looked at the Duke. Your Grace, what say you? The Duke stood, tall, dignified. I say this, Your Honour. My wife and I married with full knowledge of her circumstances. She was honest with me about her past, about her child. I chose to adopt Thomas, to give him my name, to make him my heir. That was my choice, made freely, legally. He paused. His eyes swept the courtroom. Lady Margaret claims to want what's best for the child, but I question her motives. She had 5 years to find this boy, to offer help. She did nothing. Now, when he is safe and happy, she suddenly demands custody. Why? Because she cannot control the outcome. Because she lost her power over her nephew. This is not about Thomas. This is about pride. Silence. The judge leaned back. "I've heard enough. I will make my ruling." Everyone held their breath. "Petition denied," the judge said. "The adoption stands. Thomas remains with the Duke and Duchess of Harrogate." Adeline gasped. Relief crashed over her. "However," the judge continued, "I strongly encourage the parties to come to an agreement regarding Mr. Damien Ashford's visitation rights. A child benefits from knowing his heritage. If the Duke and Duchess are willing, Mr. Ashford should be allowed supervised visits." The judge's gavel fell. Final. Lady Margaret's face was white with fury. She stood, stormed from the courtroom. Adeline didn't watch her go. She turned to the Duke. "Thank you," she whispered. "Always," he said. Then she looked at Damien. He stood alone, hopeful, scared. Adeline made a decision. She walked to him. The courtroom watched. "You can see him," she said quietly. Damien's breath caught. "Really?" "Yes. Once a month. Supervised. We'll tell him you're a family friend." "That's more than I deserve." "Yes," Adeline agreed. "It is." But she smiled. Small. Genuine. Damien smiled back, tears in his eyes. "Thank you." Adeline nodded, then returned to the Duke. They left the courtroom together. A family. Imperfect. Complicated. But real. A month later, Damien came to Harrogate Estate. He was nervous. His hands shook as he knocked on the door. A butler answered. "Mr. Ashford, we've been expecting you." Damien followed him inside. The estate was beautiful, grand, everything he could never have given Adeline. She appeared at the top of the stairs. She wore a simple dress, her hair was loose. She looked younger, lighter. "Damien," she said, "welcome. Thank you for having me. Thomas is in the garden. He's excited to meet you." They walked outside together. The garden was in full bloom, roses everywhere, just like the garden where they'd fallen in love. Thomas knelt by a flower bed. He dug in the dirt with a small shovel. "Thomas," Adeline called, "someone's here to see you." The boy looked up. His blue eyes were bright, curious. Damien's heart stopped. This was his son, his flesh and blood. "Hello?" Thomas said shyly. "Hello." Damien knelt down to his level. "I'm Damien. I'm a friend of your mother's. Do you like flowers?" "I do." "Me too," Thomas grinned. "I'm planting roses. Mama says they're special." "They are," Damien agreed. His throat was tight. "Very special." They spent the afternoon together, planting flowers, talking about butterflies, laughing. Adeline watched from a distance. Her heart was full, aching, healing. The Duke joined her. He slipped his hand into hers. "You did a good thing," he said. "I hope so. Thomas deserves to know where he comes from." "I know." They watched Damien lift Thomas onto his shoulders. The boy squealed with delight. "Do you regret it?" the Duke asked quietly. "Not being with him?" Adeline thought about it. Really thought. "I regret the pain," she said, "but not the outcome. If things had been different, I wouldn't have met you. Thomas wouldn't have his title, his future. We wouldn't have this life. Do you still love him?" It was the second time he'd asked. Adeline smiled, sad but sure. "I love who he was, who we were, but that's the past. You're my present, my future." The Duke kissed her temple. "I'm a lucky man." "We're lucky," Adeline corrected. As the sun set, Damien said goodbye. He knelt before Thomas. "Will you come back?" Thomas asked. "If your mother says yes." Thomas looked at Adeline, hopeful. She nodded. Yes, he can come back. Thomas cheered. He hugged Damien, quick, sweet. Damien's eyes filled with tears. He held his son, just for a moment. Then he let go. Thank you, he mouthed to Adeline. She nodded. Damien left. He looked back once, saw Adeline standing with the Duke and Thomas. A family. Complete without him. It hurt, but it was right. 3 years went by. Damien visited every month. He watched Thomas grow, learn, become a remarkable boy. They never told Thomas the truth. He still believed the Duke was his father. Maybe one day they would tell him, when he was older, stronger. But for now, Damien was Uncle Damien, a friend, someone who always brought gifts and told funny stories. It was enough. Adeline healed. The wounds of the past faded. She became a true duchess, confident, graceful, loved. The Duke grew older, weaker, but happier. He had a son, a wife, a purpose. I'm proud of you, he told Adeline one evening. They sat in the library, fire crackling, tea steaming. For what? For forgiving, for growing, for becoming the woman you were meant to be. Adeline took his wrinkled hand. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad I was here. 2 years later, the Duke passed away, peacefully, in his sleep. Adeline grieved, deeply, truly. He had been her savior, her friend, her family. At the funeral, Damien stood at the back. He didn't approach, he just watched. After everyone left, he came forward. He stood beside Adeline at the grave. He was a good man, Damien said. The best. He loved you. I know. They stood in silence. What will you do now? Damien asked. Adeline looked at him, really looked. 5 years of monthly visits had softened the edges between them. The anger was gone. The pain had dulled. What remained was understanding, respect, maybe even friendship. I'll raise Thomas, she said. I'll manage the estate. I'll live. You'll be a wonderful duchess. Dowager Duchess now. Still wonderful. Adeline smiled, small, sad. And you? She asked. What will you do? Damien shrugged. Keep visiting, if you'll have me. Always. The word hung between them, soft, true. Adeline, Damien said. His voice was hesitant. Do you think, in time, could there ever be? No. The word was gentle, but firm. Damien nodded. He had expected it. I understand. I loved you once, Adeline said, and I'll always care for you. You're Thomas's father. You're part of our lives, but that chapter is closed. I know. You should find someone new. Be happy. Maybe. Damien smiled sadly. But no one will ever be you. That's the past talking. Maybe. They walked back to the house together. Thomas was waiting. 9 years old now. Smart. Kind. Uncle Damien! He ran to him. Damien caught him, lifted him, hugged him tight. Over Thomas's head, his eyes met Adeline's. Thank you, he mouthed. She nodded. Epilogue. 5 years later. Thomas was 14, nearly a man. He had his father's eyes, his mother's smile. He knew the truth now. Adeline had told him on his 13th birthday, gently, carefully. He had been shocked, angry, confused, but in time, he understood. You did what you had to do, he told Adeline. You protected me. I tried. You succeeded. Thomas loved the Duke's memory. He honored his name, but he also embraced Damien as his father. They went riding together, talked about estate business, planned for the future. "Will you marry Mama?" Thomas asked one day. Damien nearly fell off his horse. "What?" "Mama, will you marry her?" "She doesn't want to marry me." "Have you asked?" "No." "Why not?" Damien sighed. "Because some things are too broken to fix, Thomas." "But you love her." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Damien admitted. "I do." "Then tell her." That night, Damien stayed for dinner. It was a common occurrence now. Comfortable. Easy. After Thomas went to bed, Damien and Adeline sat in the library. "Thomas asked me something today," Damien said. "Oh?" "He asked if I would marry you." Adeline looked up from her book, surprised. "What did you say?" "I said no." "Good." They smiled at each other. The friendship between them was real now. Deep. "But," Damien continued, "if you ever changed your mind—" "I won't." "I know." Silence. "Do you still love me?" Adeline asked. Curious, not cruel. "Yes." "Even after all these years?" "Yes." Adeline set down her book. She studied him. This man who had broken her, who had found her again, who had become someone good. "I don't love you the way I did," she said honestly. "That girl is gone. That love is gone." "I know. But I do love you." She paused. "As a friend. As Thomas's father. As someone who's been through hell and back with me. That's more than I deserve." "Probably." They laughed. Soft. Real. "Will you stay for breakfast?" Adeline asked. "If you'll have me." "Always." The word again. A promise. A gift. Damien stayed. Not as a husband. Not as a lover. But as family. And sometimes, that's enough. Sometimes, that's everything.